Hi and welcome to this week's demonstration. My name is Howard Jones, and this week's challenge I've got for you, if you fancy giving it a try. I'm going to be popping up the materials list on the screen in a moment, followed immediately by the actual photograph that I took. It's of three little fishing boats on the island of Menorca in Spain. So the challenge will be sort of drawing. If you've watched one of my other videos, I've given quite a detailed sort of explanation as to how I put the drawing down. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so. And if you want immediate notifications as and when I upload these videos, then all you have to do is hit the bell icon. Subscribing to my channel really helps. It allows me to keep these videos being uploaded onto my YouTube channel. So I'm always grateful for that support. So good luck with this one, and let's get started. So having placed my drawing in, which incidentally can be seen on my other video, so I've separated the drawing part of this demonstration so that hopefully it will make more sense. So just go and check my back catalogue, and I go into the actual drawing out of this scene quite thoroughly, with plenty of extra tips and advice on how to position the boats on the water surface, etc. So this being the painting section, you can see what I've done here is I hope I've picked up a little bit of ultramarine blue and the phthalo green or viridian green that's on the list, and a really weak wash, and over everything, including parts of the boats. I left the boats out mostly, so the boats really do sort of stay white paper. But then I picked up a bit of raw sienna and just put a few sort of abstract brush applications, brush shapes into the actual upper parts of the boats. A little bit of the warmth on the front end of this left-hand boat, just to give it form, really, just to sort of develop the form in a sort of steady fashion. So I try not to sort of look for the end. I think this is something that's really important, is not to be looking for the finish line too early. I sort of highly recommend that you sort of keep your options open for as long as possible. By that I simply mean don't go looking for completed shapes. So don't try to complete the boats in one sort of in one sitting, if you like. If you watch this, and this is the beauty of speeding things up sometimes, you'll see that the process is actually broken down into, so I'm not painting in individual boats from start to finish. So I tend to get in the couple of the warmer and cooler washes onto the general shapes, and then I've just outlined a little bit of the edge, the gunnels of these little boats with a stronger mix of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. Just establishing the front end of this middle boat here. So try not to make the line travel across these shapes unbroken. They must be broken lines, so it's very important to get the paint mix correct, which is a semi-dry paint mix. So very little water and lots of paint. And I'm using the number 7 round brush here. It's got a really good point, and that's really important. You don't want one of these old brushes that's the point has long gone. You do need a good point on the brush. So just putting in the uprights there that are holding these canopies up. And this is still just a mix of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. So I rest my hand, the fleshy part of my hand, on the actual paper, and you probably spotted that I did speed dry the washes a moment ago with a hairdryer. So you can see that line work again here. It's unbroken. It's broken. It's really important to break the line up, and you get that by making sure that there's not too much water in the brush. So it's a broken delivery. Just paying attention to the actual details from the photo here. I really like these old Spanish fishing boats. They're so different to the type of vessels that we see here in the UK. So there's a couple of crossbars there, I suppose, to secure up the vertical posts or poles. Can hardly call them masts, but they're really just sort of verticals that keep the canopies in place. I like to put in my detail at this stage. It might seem quite early to be putting in detail like this, but I work this way a lot. It enables me to put down a pigment consistency that I can put a wash over at a later date, and in doing so I can soften some of those edges and make them look a little more natural. So coupling up, if you do watch the drawing video of this, which I shall put a link to in the description below, so all you need to do is just go down and check that out. I talk about connecting your shapes, and these little fenders, these little buoys, you know, these nylon balls that protect the sides of the boat. I've sort of connected the three shapes by doing that. By using those objects as my areas by where the three of them make contact with each other. So sort of putting in a couple of rigging ropes there, and they probably disappear, but I like to sort of remind myself that they need to go in. As I get closer to the end of the painting, you'll see me put those mooring ropes in with white gouache and a rigger brush. So I've turned my attention here to a 1-inch flat brush, and I'm back to that ultramarine blue. So I want to sort of create the water now. So my mix here again is ultramarine blue, viridian green, which gives me a lovely turquoise, with just a little hint of raw sienna and burnt sienna, just to give it that sort of. It's a sort of turquoise. It's a colour that I see a lot of in these beautiful Mediterranean shorelines. It's a particular colour to that water. So just carefully using the corners of that flat brush to trace along the bottom edge of my boats. You need a big, rich mix for this. So you want to try not mix so much that you're probably going to have some left over. It's better to have too much than too little. So I'm just cutting around my boats, and it's amazing how the shapes of those boats now will pop out. as soon as something dark goes alongside them like this. And I've followed the photograph more or less for this, though not exact. But enough for me to be able to play with light and dark. So I've mixed up an even stronger mix here. So it's the same colours, but this time with less water. And right at the edge of the boat, we put in this darker application. This must be done wet in wet. And a couple of those shapes there that I'm putting in with the smaller brush are just linking my shapes together. So these are really sort of, it's really a mixture of reflection and shadow that's on the sides and in front of these boats. And at the back here, I'm just creating that open water area by suggesting some large ripples. But this was a very peaceful, calm day. There wasn't much movement in the water. So just a few ripples like this will convey that sort of harbour-like, calm, sort of passive weather conditions that we had. It wasn't actually a really bright sunny day actually, but it was bright but a bit overcast, which actually enables you to see and allows your camera to pick up the nuances in colour and shape that it might not pick up on a really brightly lit day. So it can be quite favourable sometimes to work in these conditions. And certainly favourable when you're using your camera as a method of trapping the information, of capturing the scene. Some speed drying here. And just contemplating my next move now. So you'll probably see me pick up, this is mostly water, and I'm just putting water on those marker buoys, these fenders that I mentioned earlier. And that colour that's going in there is cadmium red. So it's a case of pre-wetting those shapes and then putting the cadmium red on top. What I've done here is I've picked up a little bit of alizarin crimson, and that alizarin crimson goes on the bottom of that shape, if you like. As it's how I see the shape, the form of the shape. The warmer cadmium red goes on the top. That's its local colour. But as that shape disappears underneath in the curvature of the ball shape, then it goes a bit cooler, and that's why I've used alizarin crimson. On the very top, as though it's catching light, I've added a little bit of white gouache. And that really gives it a sense of three-dimensional form. But do make sure that you're doing this wet in wet. Decided that the buoy on this left-hand side of the middle boat should be a slightly different colour. So I've started it off the same way with some water, added some cadmium yellow to this one, but still used the cold red, the alizarin crimson on the bottom, on the bottom part of that shape of that yellow buoy. There's a couple of buoys sitting out there in the water behind, which will probably disappear in a bit because you'll see me sort of put a glaze over the water in a moment. So I'm just making sure I'm happy. I'm indicating there's some warm underside to the canopies here. It's that sort of effect that you get on canvas when the light manages to get through the fabric and leaves a sort of warm looking underside. So what I've sort of detected this sort of yellowy, it's almost like a peachy sort of colour. But having put that on the canopy, as you saw me do, I'm realising now that this colour is popping up in more than just those places. So that gives it a nice sense of warmth. Despite it being a sort of not a very sunny day, there was still plenty of warmth about bouncing around in the colours in the light. So I'm just speed drying again, just to make sure that when my hand goes down to start reworking it, I'm not making a mess. So cleaning the palette off now. I clean the palette off because sometimes it's not necessary to clean the palette. It depends on what you're doing. But I always clean the palette in between colour temperature changes. So it's okay to work into an existing mix if you're sticking with, say, a warm colour. But if you're needing to change from a warm colour to a cool colour, as you see me doing here, then that warm paint that was sat on your mixing area must be cleaned off first. Cool colours must be kept cool, warm colours must be kept warm. It's when you combine the two, of course, you do get some neutrals, sometimes some mud, but just try to sort of, for the big areas, for the big washes, you certainly need to make the decision as to whether that colour should be warm or whether it should be cool. So the 1-inch flat brush here, and you can see I'm gently putting this glaze over the water, being careful not to be too aggressive. This brush that I'm using is a synthetic and natural combination. It's a blend. It's very gentle on the surface, so those ripples that I put in earlier, they more or less stay. They more or less keep their shape. So you can see I'm just really covering everything now. Just covering over those lighter patches in the water. That really does make the water look far more convincing, more reflective. So I'm just going in, actually putting some clean water on the boat hulls, and then a very, very weak mix of the colour that you just saw me using as a glaze over the water, because these hard white surfaces of these boats, they will be reflecting the colours that are surrounding them. So exactly the same treatment for the middle boat. Just making some subtle changes to the left-hand boat. Once again, speed drying. I'm just looking at the shape of my cabin on this right-hand boat and just checking out that it looks as though it's, it sits on that shape correctly. So you see me pick up a little pickle jar lid then. What I'm doing with that is making sure that the mix that I'm using is not contaminated with too much water. So by putting the paint, and incidentally that paint is ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, directly onto a little pickle jar lid, it means that it's much easier to control the water in a dry surface like that. If I were to use my large palette surface, there's already too much water there. So it's essential that this, what I'm doing right now, is a dry brush mix. So I'm getting very close now to the finish here. I'll be picking up a rigger brush here, and just that I can put some cables in, some ropes off the canopies. And again, in a moment, you'll see me keep the same brush, the rigger brush, but instead I'll be working with white gouache paint for the mooring ropes. So if you've enjoyed this demonstration this week, folks, please hit the like button. As I say, please subscribe if you haven't already. It'll ensure that I can keep these videos coming. And if you hit the bell icon, you will get immediate notification as and when I upload the new videos each week. So we'll just put the sort of mount around this and have a look at it. So I hope you've enjoyed this one, and if you're going to give it a go, please let me know. Please drop a comment below, and I'd love to know how you're getting on, and how, if you're enjoying these videos. It'd be great to hear from you. So good luck until next week. See you then.